Hey everybody, Melissa McKenzie here from the American Spectator. I'm the publisher there, and I'm joined, as always, with Scott McKay, who is a contributing editor to the American Spectator and also the grand poobah of the Hayride and
Yeah.
of Reviver.com over in Louisiana.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
today is a big day because today is election day across the fruited plains, and there's lots of things going on. I voted today, by the way, and things were at a steady clip over at my precinct. Actually, for it was all local elections, very hyper local stuff, and some um, also some funding things for the local school district. I felt like Scrooge McDuck because I voted against all of it.
Good for you.
Just on principle, libertarian principle. And also, there were some, a lot of constitutional amendments that were being voted on today, like 6 or 7 of them here in Texas, which I've never seen before like this. And so I'm guessing that Texas isn't the only place. Like Houston right now, don't be dumb, please, Houstonians. For once in your life, don't be dumb, and vote for the right guy for your mayor. We'll see what happens. But anyway, lots of elections everywhere. Scott, why don't you give us the rundown of what you think today is going to bring? Because we've got elections all over.
Well, the two main ones that are going on, and this is obviously Tuesday, November 7th, that we're recording this. And as of right now, you get the Mississippi governor's race. Tate Reeves is a Republican incumbent, and he's up against Brandon something, who's like a guy's like a 45-year-old Democrat. He looks 70. Okay. I don't know if that's like years of hard living or something that this guy's like. He looks much older than he is. But he's run, kind of a John Bel Edwards, Andy Bashir kind of campaign. Don't think it's going to work. Talked to a couple pollsters. They're saying that Reeves is, I mean, it's Mississippi. It's a Democrat can't really get more than 45, 46% of the vote. And they think that's what this guy, Brandon something, is going to top out at. So probably 54, 46, 55, 45 for Reeves in the Mississippi governor's race. But the interesting one is Kentucky, because Bashir, who is the Democrat, and Kentucky's a pretty red state. I mean, I think it was 65% for Trump in 2020. But Bashir is like one of these Democrats who, comes from a very kind of old school Kentucky aristocratic family. Right. He's governed left of center, but not so far left of center that like Joe Sixpack, who doesn't really pay attention, thinks of him as a left-wing wacko. Right. So he's kind of skated a little, but along comes Daniel Cameron, who is the Attorney General of the state of Kentucky, who's been involved in a lot of these multi-state lawsuits where state attorneys general have really been kicking the ass of the Biden administration. Cameron's like a real conservative. He's a super articulate, attractive, charismatic, and black, which is like really interesting. You got a black Republican who like says all of, like basically sounds like Byron Donalds. And he's running for governor of Kentucky, which, has always sort of been one of the most, old Southern kind of attitude toward those types of things. And a month ago, Emerson College polls the race and Bashir's up 49-33. Last week they polled the race and it's Cameron 49, Bashir 48. So he has just completely shot through the sky. Very good chance he wins. And if he does, a couple of things are true. Number one, it's the end of this. Oh, the Democrats are proving in special elections across the country that, boy, are they, like there's momentum. And in every one of these, state legislative races in New Hampshire where the Democrat wins, they're
Mhm.
spending 10 times the money Republicans are spending to
Right.
try to sustain a narrative. You go spend $300,000 in a state rep race in New Hampshire, right? Which is a $40,000 race at the most.
Right.
You spend this money and then you do a touchdown dance that your guy won 52-48 in a
Right.
special election. And
Right.
it's like, that doesn't prove much of anything. So if they lose the Kentucky election, if they spent, I want to say it's 12 million in the Mississippi governor's race so far, 85% of it is out of state money.
Ooh.
Okay. They are, just hammering money into Mississippi to try to steal that thing from Reeves. And if that doesn't work, and if it's like 54-46, 55-45, like it's a complete just
Blowout.
wet balloon of all this money going in there.
Mhm.
Like that's the end of this, Biden mentum narrative. Okay. Like
Biden mentum is such shit.
it's a shitty and then the other thing is you got the legislative elections in Virginia,
Right.
which
That's
very
big.
well result in Republicans taking both houses of the legislature and really turbocharging Glenn Youngkin.
Well, I really like the coverage, really portraying Youngkin as like Donald Trump light or something. It's hilarious because it's so ridiculous.
These people are such one-trick ponies. Okay, they're doing the same thing, by the way, with, and of course, we talked about Mike Johnson. They have cast Mike Johnson as Robert Duvall in the Handmaid's Tale movie.
Right.
I mean, like Mike Johnson is this, well, he's a two-bit grifter because he's not rich from having been in Congress over the last, 6-8 years. They're all over, pouring all over his financial statement. He owes hundreds of thousands of dollars on a mortgage. It's like, yeah, like he's an American.
Right.
Right.
Well, speaking of Johnson, your best buddy and pal, he did something today that I'm really thrilled with. He fired the chief of staff guy from McCarthy. Yep. And all of this kind of so when Devin Nunes was still in the House and did this whole investigation about Chinese money through Sequoia Capital, affecting elections and involved all over the place. And McCarthy killed it because McCarthy was getting money from Sequoia Capital and from China money and from FTX, Sam Bankman-Fried's little outfit. And Johnson fired McCarthy's guy, who was like the foreign policy chief of staff to the Speaker of the House or something like that. I'm not sure, but I forget the exact title.
The upshot basically meaning that China doesn't have a line into the Speaker's office anymore.
Yep. Hallelujah.
Okay. This is like a big deal. Like, you want to talk about draining the swamp?
Yes,
You're
exactly.
seeing some of this happen. So here's something interesting. Rasmussen came out with a poll today.
Yeah.
And this is after 10 days, 2 weeks of nonstop media attacks. Mike Johnson's he's the freaking, he's a theocrat, he's a wacko, he's an extremist, yada, yada, yada.
Right.
So Rasmussen polls his approval. 47 up, 29 down.
Ooh.
Most popular congressional leader in America.
That's great.
I know. So, in other words, they have been on this guy for 2 weeks, and it has not worked. And what that tells you is the American people don't buy it. The American people are not interested in hearing what the media has to say about this guy. These attacks are failing and will fail. And they're failing for the simple reason that Mike Johnson refuses to be canceled.
Well, and he's also, when I noticed that when he speaks, when he gets in front of cameras, he is not at all the kind of, I think in order for that narrative to take hold, the person has to have a certain edge or something, and he's all smooth all the way around, and so it's hard to get your hands around him, and he's just a normal person talking to people.
He's Ned Flanders. Like, we give him a hard time about the fact that he's Ned Flanders, but he, it's a very measured tone of voice,
right?
Very even. He doesn't flail around when he talks. His head stays relatively stable when he speaks. He's not overly expressive. He's just, but what he says makes sense. Okay, and it's consistent with, one thing he says is consistent with the next thing, and there's a certain stability there. That is really attractive in a time when most of the people in politics are freaking clowns. And it's a major difference between, say, Johnson and McCarthy. McCarthy, you never got the impression Kevin McCarthy believed what was coming out of his mouth.
Oh no. I mean, Kevin McCarthy believes right.
Somebody told him to say this, so he said it, right? And he had this look in his eyes like, I hope this comes out right, because I don't know what I'm saying. Like with Johnson, it's the opposite. Okay. He says, no, look, I have believed this all my life. Okay. I studied the Bible. My interpretation of the Bible gave me this as a moral standing or whatever code. And I based my philosophy over that. And this is where it led me to. You're not going to change my mind, but I'll explain it to you all you want. Like this kind of whole thing.
Right.
And he's actually a constitutional lawyer. So all his adult life, he has had these discussions, these arguments, has made these cases, and has heard all of the rejection of it or resistance to it, and has worked through all of that. So like, in other words, you can't go to Mike Johnson and stump him on any of this public policy stuff, because he knows his stuff. Like, he knows it. And so it's just a totally different world to be in when you have a leader like that, that's like the smartest guy in the room, number one, and is totally comfortable in his own skin, number two, and number three, is unfazable because he actually has faith in a higher power that, like, if I do the right thing, I'm going to get protected, right?
Well,
you don't have that in Washington. And
no, you don't.
It's such a breath of fresh air because of it.
Well, I feel like I almost hesitate to say it, but it's so improbable that he ended in this position. It's so
you can use the word if you want. You can use it.
It feels
miracle.
Yes.
Miracle.
Feels miraculous. And I have to say, Matt Gaetz, way to go.
Yes.
What you did.
Absolutely.
You at least gave the House some sober leadership, and the Republicans seem somewhat chastened. I did hear that they came out of a budget, thing, all fighting each other as per usual, but trying to come to an agreement about everything.
Fighting over a budget. Everybody does that. It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. But anyway, it does see, that is a bright, shining spot in our nasty political world right now. And I do think that, here's where the Democrats have gone so terribly, terribly wrong, is the American people since COVID are paying attention, and they're mad. And so like the local elections became really, really, important. And so I have to say, I was surprised at the clip of voters for a midterm where nothing statewide really, except for like constitutional amendments and stuff like that. There was like nothing scintillating or exciting. And I'm like, ooh, this is interesting. We'll see what ends up happening. But everybody's having to tighten up their game. I don't know if these bond issues are even going to be passed because the language was so broad that nobody could be sure that the local governance, that there was actual local governance. Nobody wants to write a blank check anymore. Nobody wants to put up with this baloney anymore. And so right.
And nobody gives politicians the benefit of the doubt, which never should have been done to begin with.
Never should have been done. Like anybody who knows them, it's like, no,
Yeah,
No.
no, giving them the benefit of the doubt is an open invitation to getting more and worse government, right? Like
Okay, so
you have to actually tell these people no constantly until they make the most ironclad case for the smallest growth in government possible.
okay,
And then it's a maybe rather than a no.
right. Okay, so let's get to your book real quick. We
Yeah.
have you have your book coming out, which is all about Obama. Don Serber, our dear friend Don Serber, who
Wait, stop, because I am told
mhm,
that whenever the subject of my book comes up, what I have to say is that
uh-huh.
the name of the book is Racism, Revenge, and Ruin. It's available at Calamo Press. You can pre-order it at Barnes and Noble and at Books A Million now.
Oh,
So
good.
just go there and type in the search engine Racism, Revenge, and Ruin by Scott McKay. It will be out next week. Their
Oh,
books are at the printer now. So like we're all super excited about it. And I feel really good about the book, and we're about to launch into it, but things are happening which make the book unbelievably timely.